Now, I'd like to introduce Amaha Kassa, who is the founder and executive director of African Communities Together, which is an organization of African immigrants fighting for civil rights, opportunity, and a better life for their families. Amaha is an Ethiopian immigrant with years of experience as an organizer, attorney, and the leader of ACT. Amaha, are you there?
I'm here.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
All right, great to be with you all this evening. I am Amaha Kass. I'm with African Communities Together. We're an organization of African immigrants with chapters in New York and D.C. and working with African communities around the country. I want to talk to you a little bit. I know people have a lot of questions about the various bans, Muslim ban, refugee ban, and so forth. So I want to just take a moment to talk with you about what are we seeing on immigration? What are the various orders that are coming down? What do they all mean for communities like ours? And most important, what can we do to resist and to push back? So over the past few weeks, the administration has issued a series of executive orders. Some of them have been more well-known than others. But taken together, they completely transform immigration policy in this country in ways that are anti-humanitarian, anti-immigrant, and deeply threatening. So some of those executive orders you've likely heard about, the building of a wall on the southern border, extremely expensive, not particularly useful, even for its stated purposes, and obviously, a terrible symbol of our nation's immigration policy. Second, you might have been hearing about a stepped-up enforcement of immigration, stepped-up attempts to detain and deport undocumented immigrants. We have seen an executive order that commits to keeping people locked up even while they're going through their court cases. We're going to see a growth in detention facilities, including privatized immigration detention facilities. And whereas under the Obama administration, there was really a frantic pace of deportation. We're going to see that frantic pace get even more escalated in this new administration because the Trump administration has said basically that every undocumented immigrant is a priority for removal. We've been hearing rumors and reports about raids. At this point, most of that seems to be people who have existing orders of deportation, and ICE is knocking on their door and arresting them at home. We haven't yet seen sweeps or checkpoints outside of areas where they usually happen, but frankly, that's something that we could see in the very near future. The third thing after the wall and the stepped-up enforcement and detention is of course, the visa ban. As people know, the first time the visa ban was enacted, we saw chaos at airports as people were detained, held. Nobody was sure what was going to happen to them when they tried to enter the country, as in many cases they'd been doing for years and years. And we also saw a powerful pushback in the streets of tens of thousands of people standing up and saying, no, this is not what we stand for. We've now seen the renewal of the visa ban for 6 countries: Iran, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Sudan, and Somalia. No new visas being issued for those countries. Some minor changes from the first executive order. Iraq was left off of the list. People with existing green cards were left off the list, and dual citizens. But really, when we're talking about the Muslim ban, we're really talking about the same terrible policy on a different day. The last area where I want to just focus briefly is something that's not gotten a lot of attention, but is a really critical issue for the country's immigrant communities, and that's humanitarian immigration policy. We've seen not only a Muslim ban, but a refugee ban. In the first executive order and now in this renewed executive order, refugee resettlement has been frozen for 4 months. the levels of refugee resettlement have been cut roughly in half for this year, and we don't know if that reduced level is where it's going to be from now on. That seems to be the sign. It's an uncertain future. And what that means is for people in places like the Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya, who've been waiting in some cases over 10 years, they are going to continue to wait. That we're taking this very slow pipeline that already vets people very closely for years at a time, and we're slowing it to just a drop. That's the refugee resettlement community, people coming in from overseas. But the executive orders also attack people who are seeking humanitarian immigration assistance from within the U.S., here in the U.S., asylum. So these are people who enter the U.S. on a visa and then go to the government and say, it's unsafe for me to return to my country. People like our members, Fatim, a young woman who's a survivor of female genital mutilation, has a young daughter, doesn't want to return to her country because she wants to protect her daughter. She would be hurt by the changes in asylum policy. People like Carol, one of our members, a lesbian woman from Nigeria who was persecuted, harassed, threatened, and sought asylum here in this country. Her right to asylum would be threatened. People like Theo, who was from northern Nigeria, preached against Boko Haram, and whose life was threatened. His safety would be threatened by the changes in asylum policy. And what the administration has proposed to do is what are called rocket dockets, where basically people are fast-tracked and their right to a fair hearing, a fair day in court, often is lost because they're just, it turns courts into cattle cars where people are just ushered through. So those are real threats to the future of humanitarian immigration. The good news is that there aren't just threats but opportunities. While Trump has attacked refugees with his policies, there's actually a deep wellspring of sympathy for refugees in a lot of communities including white evangelicals, Catholics, descendants of Holocaust survivors. So what we're doing is organizing 2 days of action called City of Refuge here in New York, where we are taking to the streets and saying refugees are welcome here. Our city is a city of refuge. We were planning to do that on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, but unfortunately, Winter Storm Stella, our blizzard, has changed our plans a little bit. So we're now looking a couple weeks out. 3 things you can do. 1, we invite you to join us in making your own city a city of refuge. We'd be thrilled if people across the country took up the mantle of city of refuge and organized sympathy actions, solidarity actions, their own actions in support of refugees and asylum. 2nd, you can tweet or share on social media a picture or video of yourself with the hashtag City of Refuge and let people know why you want to make your community a welcoming place for refugees. And then the last thing you can do is talk to your representatives. Let them know that not only should they resist the executive orders that strangle the rights of refugees and asylum seekers, but in fact they should introduce legislation to protect our commitment to refugees and to humanitarian immigration policy. Thanks.